Well, it's official. The 2021 census reveals that Christians are officially a minority in Australia, and a persecuted minority at that. What's more, Christians don't qualify for the protection that human rights legislation grants other minorities, for instance, those defined by race, gender or sexual orientation. But the fact that people who claim an affiliation to the Christian church has fallen from 61.1% to 43.9% in just 5 years suggests the status of formal religion in Australia is rapidly declining. The implications are far bigger than many people think. Modern Australia has been defined by its Judeo-Christian origins, and they underpin our shared understanding of who we are and how we should behave. To discuss the change in the culture is Dr. Stephen Chavura, a lecturer in European and Australian history at Campion College and the author of The Forgotten Menzies, the world picture of Australia's longest-serving Prime Minister, published last year. Stephen, welcome. What are the reasons for this fall in faith allegiance in your view?
Well, it's great to be on the show, Nick. Thank you very much. The fall in sort of religiosity, or maybe a better way of putting it, the decline of Christianity in Australia, is something that also happened throughout Western Europe and to a lesser extent happened in America. But, you know, at the time, during the 1960s, social commentators would talk about decline in church attendance being caused by technology, for one thing. So, for example, when it became more common for families to own cars, there was more of an incentive to do things other than go to church on a Sunday. You could go up or down the coast, you could go to a park for a picnic and things like that. So just the introduction of the motor car was something that provided a kind of competition with church attendance. The rise of television as well is something that, again, commentators at the time in the 1960s said is having an impact on church attendance. But then there's something a bit deeper in the culture, Nick, that also led over decades to a decline in not just church attendance, but a decline in the public significance and belief in Christianity. And this happens most rapidly, as you said, really from about 1966 to 1971. You see a great drop in people identifying as Christians and a great actual incline in people identifying with no religion. And that is a kind of moral worldview shift that takes place around the developed West, particularly around questions of sexual morality and also questions of sort of gender relations. And what starts to happen, particularly from the 1950s, is you kind of get a separation of sort of biblical traditional Christianity and public morality. They start to sort of be prized apart more and more, and that Christianity seems at first kind of morally quaint, but then you get to sort of this day and age with modern beliefs regarding gender and sexuality and things like that, and Christianity now sort of almost, well, it basically seems by many people to be sort of immoral and harmful. But so yeah, a great moral shift that takes place, a cultural revolution from the 1960s, which is still going today.